All right, so we're joined here by Peyton from over at Fourth
Hey
Radical, the
guys.
YouTube channel, and today we're discussing the Roger Stone commutation. So, as we know by now, Donald Trump commuted Roger Stone's sentence. He's still guilty of those crimes, but he doesn't have to serve any time for it. And there's a lot of different opinions going around between this being a terrible thing for the country, or it's just no big deal at all, depending on who you talk to. There's all sorts of arguments going around that some people saying lying to Congress is no big deal, right? Other people saying Stone never really did anything wrong anyways. He just got wrapped up in a big hoax, all sorts of stuff. I think the thing that's most troubling to me, the lasting damage, is this idea that we're setting the stage that a president can commute or pardon the very people who may otherwise be forced to testify against the president. So he can basically take his co-conspirators, he can take people, and he can pardon those people. He can set them free so that they never are forced to say bad things about him, which could come back and show his own wrongdoings, right? So, we go down a bit of a rabbit hole here. What do you think, Peyton?
Yeah, so I think the most damning quote from this entire thing was Roger Stone when he said here, he said, and this is a quote here, quote, "Trump knows I was under enormous pressure to turn on him. It would have eased my situation considerably, but I didn't."
Right.
I think that just that quote right there should be, more or less book closed. All right, we're done. The fact that he said that tells you that he knew what was going on. He knew that he had stuff on the president. He knew that he had stuff on the president, but he didn't, quote, turn on him, and that he sort of owed a favor. And just a few hours after saying that quote, what happened? Trump came around and commuted his sentence. Right. Yeah, this is a problem for democracy. Now, is Trump the first president to do a corrupt pardon? Absolutely not. Bill Clinton pardoned his brother, right? So is this the first instance of that? No. And we shouldn't get stuck down that rabbit hole. We need to be realistic here and understand that this isn't just an issue of Donald Trump being corrupt. This is also just an issue of why does the president have the pardon power, and why does that pardon power seem to be almost entirely absolute?
Yeah, and you make a good point that this kind of thing has happened in the past, and I guess my initial thinking then is that we should fix it then. If this is a problem that keeps occurring, let's do something about it. I'm not going to sit here and make reasons why it's okay if Clinton does it and it's not okay if someone else does it. No, there needs to be some kind of check and balance here to this pardon commutation privilege that the president seems to exercise, and put this in a way where we really can hold the president accountable. We've been hearing that for months now, that the president is not above the law, the president is accountable like everyone else, and yet if you actually look at it, the president does seem to be above the law, right? So first of all, we've not been able to actually hold real investigations. Mueller himself said his investigation came up short because of the roadblocks that were put in place by the president. So we can't really have a real investigation, and we don't really know the extent of what Roger Stone did. We know some things that he got in trouble for, but we don't know the whole story. Why? Because we can't do a real investigation. So I think the main thing we need to leave with is, something needs to change. There needs to be some kind of restructuring in the government. Otherwise, it just naturally lends itself to someone taking over and just becoming a monarch or dictator or whatever, where you say, oh, no, you don't get to investigate me. You can investigate everyone else. I'll protect the people who might have anything to say about me, but you can't really just directly come after the president, which I think is an issue.
Exactly. We live in a system where we're supposed to have checks and balances. That's something that our founding fathers were very proud of, saying that we had developed a system of checks and balances, but it's quite clear that we don't have checks and balances in our current system. So just for the record, in case you guys aren't clear here, Roger Stone was convicted of 5 counts, not 1, not 2, but 5 counts of false statements to Congress and tampering with a witness. And then he was commuted of his sentence. In fact, probably because of the fact that he was making false statements, because those false statements meant that he wasn't turning on Donald Trump. Right. The only kinds of checks and balances that we really seem to have in our system is checks by across party, right? When the Democrats won Congress, back in 2018, all the rhetoric was around this idea, well, now the president has a check. Hold on, I thought that the president was always supposed to have a check, and that check was supposed to be Congress. Well, it turns out that we have checks by political parties, not checks by branches. So we end up with a lot of archaic legal maneuvering that has to go on between branches, which doesn't really make any sense. And, you know, the governmental system that we have doesn't really mesh well with the facts that we have on the ground.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point earlier when you talked about the fact that, Stone's tweet, these people are communicating through Twitter. They're doing it out in the open for all of us, the entire world, to read what's going on. And you're right, Stone kind of gave away the game when he said, I've got it was almost like he was just putting it out there to remind Trump, I do have information on you. I'm about to go to prison. Now is the time to do something about it. And we've got Manafort, Flynn are also people who could have things to say about the president, and the president is working to make sure that those people are going to be taken care of and have no reason to come back and testify against him. And then another tweet that came out from Stone, he thanked Hannity, Tucker, Gates. I mean, he's basically naming the people who are in this sort of elite group of people who, as long as we all stick together, we're unbeatable, right? You've got the people over at Fox News, the media, right, have their narrative they're pushing. And then you have people in the actual administration and people in Congress that on the Republican side, as long as they all stick together, it's very clear that they're not going to nothing's ever going to happen to any of them, right? They're sort of secured from the rest of what's going on, even though they're apparently involved in some kind of sketchy stuff here.
Right. No, that's such a good point, that they all have a collective interest right here to protect people like Roger Stone, protect people who are lying in order to, keep the game downright and safe. And look, some of that is just downright straight corruption. They're all in the same room together. You get one of them, you get all of them. But there's also some kind of systemic issues here, which we can talk about fixing. For instance, our founding fathers did not believe that there was going to be political parties in this country. And so, we end up in a situation right now where you have down ballot races. So if the president gets hurt, all of Congress also gets hurt if they have that R next to their name when it comes to Donald Trump. And so that's a disaster, right? So we have a situation right now where Congress has an incentive to make sure that the president gets off the hook for doing corrupt things. And that's a systemic problem. That's a problem which requires the changing of our very governmental system in order to solve this issue. This is not, guys, because look, I'll admit it, guys, when this story was first dropping, I was pretty turned off by it when I was first looking over the headlines, because it just seemed like it was a personality thing. It was this person, that other thing. And I had to, actually read through some articles, step back and think about it and realize that, no, this is more than just a personality politics thing. This is more than just this person, that thing, that other thing. This is about the very way in which our government is functioning, and it tells us that there's a problem there.
Yeah. Great point. Great point, Peyton. Thanks for joining us for the conversation. Make sure to head over to the Fourth Radical YouTube channel. Check out Peyton's channel. He's got some great videos going on over there. So go check him out. Thanks again for joining us, Peyton, and we'll see you in the future.
Peace.